Ahoy, and welcome to the Jolly Reader. I'm your host, Captain Book. I'm excited. We're finishing up You'll Be the Death of Me by Karen M McManus. This is part 3. So if you haven't listened to part 1 and 2, please go back and do that. This week we are covering chapters 22 through 36. Obviously, that's the rest of the book. Pages 216 through 323. Okay, before we hop into this, just a quick question because you guys are my book crew or whatever. Are we reading the new Hunger Games book or have we already read it? Because I would love to hear in the comments what you thought about it. It's, what is it called? It's called, Sunrise on the Reaping, I believe. I saw it at Target for sale and I was like, I'm buying this now because, oh, by the way, this is not a sponsored ad or anything. I just really like the series. I remember when it came out, I read them all very quickly, probably within a week, the first 3. I have not read the other prequel. So just let me know what you thought. I'm just kind of curious. But anyway, we'll jump into this. To recap from the last time, so Cal is coming around the idea that Laura is involved in all of this. Ivy is freaking out because everyone in the news thinks she's guilty of killing Boney Mahoney. Mateo's cousin, Autumn, left town to go take care of Ma, Mateo's mom. And Mateo hates everyone, but he hates Ivy the most because they had just gotten in that fight getting out of the car, which is kind of weird for me to talk about now since I finished the book. And I'm like, wait a second, where are we? So things to look forward to. I mean, we figure out everything, so I don't really know what more you want from me, but we do get the title of the book. It's not as dun dun dun, but it is a fun little, I don't know. You know how I am. I always like getting the title of the book. We find out who the drug lord is, we find out who the weasel is, and then we find out who D is, which is surprisingly the worst part of this whole series, honestly. And also, if you predicted the ending, you are a liar because this is crazy. This book is literally crazy, and I so appreciate it because it doesn't have a super cookie cutter ending, which is nice. It starts to, and then it doesn't. So I really appreciate that about it. This is one, I know I always say I suggest to read it, but this one I really, really suggest that you read. So let's hop into it. Okay, chapter 22, Cal. So they pull up to the school and because they're going to go look at that painting that's in the teacher's classroom to compare the handwriting to Dominic's, or because it's Dominic's painting. So they're comparing the handwriting to the love note to Miss Jameson. I call her the teacher. I call her Miss Jameson and I call her Laura. So let's try to keep up. But anyway, so as soon as they get there, Mateo asks Cal to pop the trunk and he grabs his backpack and then he leans in the door and he's like, later, Cal, which is kind of confusing to me because he's like, I hate Cal too in his brain, but whatever. He's relatively nice to Cal in this part. But Cal gets out to try to stop him. I'm assuming Ivy's just staying in the car this whole time. But Mateo is okay. So first of all, just so you guys know, last time I typed out my notes, this time I voiced to text my note and it's changing Mateo to potato again. So that might slip out. But anyway, Mateo's why are we even here for this stupid painting? Who cares? It's another one of Ivy's stupid ideas because obviously he's mad. And then Cal asks Mateo where he's going. And he's like, I'm going home. And then Cal's like, you can't go home because it's dangerous. Didn't we just see what happened at... Oh, I remember his name. Charlie's house. So then Mateo tells him, he's like, don't worry about me. And then he says the S word. The essiest day ever is officially over because I called it the greatest day ever for when they were 5th graders or whatever. So Cal asks what they should tell the police because they don't have their stories straight. And then obviously they all skipped school and Autumn was spotted at, or not Autumn, Ivy was spotted at the location. And what if they ask about Autumn, who's obviously involved to some extent? And Mateo says, you don't say anything about Autumn. They can't prove anything. Boney's dead and Charlie's not talking. So you're a loose end. Don't make me take care of it. He doesn't threaten him, but you know. And then Mateo says he's done. Take care of yourself, Cal. Girl, bye. So then Mateo jumps the fence by the school and starts walking to where I would assume is his home. And Ivy comes up behind Cal and says that they need to fix all this. So Cal thinks about what Mateo says, who cares? But he cares. Cal cares because he wants to know what's going on with Laura. Obviously, he's in love with her, or at least was very recently, and why she's in the middle of all this. So Cal and Ivy enter the school over by the gym, and they hear Coach Kendall and her brother, and then her brother's friend that he's supposed to go to Olive Garden with after school in the hallway. I don't have his name. He's not super relevant besides the fact that he just hangs out with Ivy's brother. But anyway, so Ivy and Cal hide in a janitor's closet because they don't want to get caught sneaking into the school. But the other people are there because of practice. Cal's feeling guilty throughout this part because Coach Kendall's super nice and he's just like making dad jokes and stuff in the hallway. And he's like, I'm basically like hooking up with his fiance. I mean, obviously they didn't kiss or anything, but we all know that's the intentions of that whole situation. So Ivy's brother and the coach and everyone, they leave. They just like walk down the hallway or whatever. And then Cal and Ivy go into the art room because Ivy has that weird master key for freaking everything because she volunteered for something, like whatever. So Cal tells the audience that he misses the art room before Laura started there. That he's more of a shell of himself, like his ex-girlfriend said in the first part of the book. And he's just kind of reminiscing. Like, honestly, I'm really sorry, you guys. I'm going to try to summarize this the best as possible. But this section is very much like character development and their inner feelings and just things that is hard to explain. But if you read the book, you get more of that feeling. So I'm just going to hit on like the main points like I usually do. But just kind of this one more than the rest have been more heavy, like you would have to read the book to get the full effect of everything. But anyway, Cal's phone starts ringing and it's both his dad's on a joint call. They saw the YouTube video accusing Ivy and saying Cal was sick from school because I think it's Ivy's best friend that says on that, like there was two other seniors that were sick that day and they list Cal and Mateo. So they're like, were you sick from school? We didn't hear anything. Obviously we didn't call in. He just lies and said, yeah, I was sick. And they're asking about like why the school didn't call them and whatever. And Cal says maybe they forgot with everything going on. He's like, he wants to get out of this conversation. So he's like, I gotta go throw up. So he runs away or like hangs up the phone. Then Cal and Ivy find the painting by Dominic and it's signed and it looks nothing like the note that they found in the teacher's black book. They describe the note as having loopy handwriting and Dominic's signature is more slashes. And the D like signature doesn't even look the same as the D on the painting. So they can rule out Dominic as being who wrote the note, which is accurate. This is not like some false reporting to like throw you off like, oh, he changed his handwriting for the note. No, it's not like that. It's like literally not Dominic. So Cal suggests that they leave the day planner that Ivy took there. So Laura thinks, oh, I say Laura. It's Laura, whatever. So she thinks she just left it in her office. So Ivy's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm like, she's still super involved. I'm sure she wants to give it to the police at some point, whatever. So they start looking through her desk and one of her desk drawers is locked. And then like before they can figure out what to do about that, they hear someone at the door say, what are you doing here? And it's Daniel, which is Ivy's brother. Chapter 23, Ivy. So Daniel wants answers and he wants them now. And he said that he heard them talking. So he went back to use the bathroom and then he overheard them talking. And of course he recognizes his sister's voice. So Daniel's mad because he had to miss half a lacrosse practice talking to the cops about Ivy. And there's like a lot of back and forth, but Ivy's asking like, what did you tell the police? And he's not really responding. And then he says that he basically didn't tell them anything, just that they talked, like her and him talked on the phone around 1 and she was feeling fine or like everything was good. Nothing was wrong. And he says to Ivy, he's like, I didn't want to screw you over. And also they asked for her phone number. And he says that he gave them a phone number that may have gotten some of the numbers mixed up. So instead of like 317, he said 371. Oh, I just hit the mic. Anyway, throughout all this, Ivy gets notifications that her parents' flight was delayed and is now scheduled to land in less than a half hour, giving them more time. This happens a couple times. Just the flight's delayed, they have an extra hour. The flight's delayed, they have an extra hour. So like, big who cares, and I'm not going to update you every time. Like, who cares? But the whole point of this section is to say that Daniel obviously does not hate his sister and like doesn't want her to get in trouble with the police, and he doesn't believe that she's involved. And she's like, yes, you do hate me. You humiliated me at the talent show when you had me read my aunt's stuff or whatever. And Daniel says it was a joke because she used to always laugh when the aunt would send those books, and he didn't think she would read it in front of the whole auditorium. And Ivy says that Daniel knew that she was bad at public speaking, but Daniel says, how am I supposed to know that when you don't even talk to me? Like, I don't know who you are. We're not friends, like whatever. So Ivy's feeling guilty about the whole bowling alley situation, and even more now because her brother isn't that bad or as bad as she thought he was. So like the whole point of this is her internal feelings about him being better than her. Like that's all like projected, and their fighting and stuff is probably normal sibling things. But anyway, then Ivy asks him about the sugar babies, and she's calling him a jerk for like taking them off the porch, and Daniel's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, Mateo left them in 8th grade. You know, you remember, you're a jerk. And Daniel looks at Cal and says, like, are you gonna leave me hanging? What the heck? And Cal's super pale and trying to disappear into the wall at this point. And Daniel says, seriously, okay, this is what I remember. Daniel came home one day to Cal on the porch holding a pack of sugar babies and a piece of paper. Cal said he was going to give them to Ivy, but since she wasn't home, he'll just do it in person. And then he left with both the things. So Ivy's like, Cal, is this true? And Ivy's like, yeah, it is. Chapter 24, Mateo. Also, like, since we're kind of out of pause part, it was really hard for me to stop and take notes. Like, I binge read the book from, like, here on out, basically. I stopped after they revealed who the drug dealer was. This is probably all going to be put in the outtakes, whatever. But there's, like, a whole thing at the very end. But I probably read, like, the next 5 chapters before taking notes. But anyway, Mateo gets to his house. It's completely torn apart like the other guy's house. Who cares? I can't think of his name right now. So throughout this part, Mateo's basically trying to figure out what he should do, and he keeps talking about Ivy and how he's starting to feel kind of bad about what he said in the car, and he obviously still likes her. And I'm just going to go over the main things we need to know in this section because he goes through a lot of internal dialogue. So he gets a text from his dad saying that his dad got a job as an assistant manager at a music store nearby so he can help out more. And this prompts too little too late feelings about all that, like whatever. And he also thinks like his dad's like has ulterior motives, not necessarily like negative, but it's like he's not there to help Mateo. He's there to help himself or something else. We get back to that eventually. So then he also has some text messages about calling Aunt Rose to wish her a happy birthday. So he does this and his grandma answers instead. And the aunt's already gone to bed because she's a million years old. I think she's literally like 90. And like the grandma says to Mateo, you always sound tired when I talk to you and you always have to go to work. And then Graham says the title of the book for us. She goes, you'll be the death of me. So there we go. We got the title. Ding, ding, ding. Special noise effect here. But then he sees a text shortly after this, and she's like, I'm not going to the Bronx. And before he can even respond, she said that she told Aunt Elaine because Aunt Elaine knew something was wrong, and she wouldn't let up. She's like, you know how she is. And then Autumn says she couldn't keep lying with Boney dead, and she was sorry like about everything, and the aunt wants her to go to the police. So Mateo's upset about this for all the things earlier, plus Autumn's an adult, so like she's the only one that's going to go to jail most likely because she's not a minor anymore, and everyone else involved is minors at this point, blah, blah, blah. So he goes up to Autumn's bedroom and sees a bulletin board with a bunch of pictures, and he describes some of them. So there's pictures of her parents who died in a car accident when she was young, her aunt and uncle, which I'm assuming is Mateo's parents, one of him and her at the aquarium. There's a lot of symbolism throughout the book. I suggest reading it, but the aquarium is one of the places Cal suggested during the best day ever because he likes penguins, whatever. So there's a picture of Ivy and Cal and Mateo at a school dance, and Daniel's also like in the background of that picture. And then there's a picture of Autumn with her boyfriend, loser Gabe, and Stephen or Stefan or whatever, St. Clair, who is Charlie's brother, is all in this picture. These are an important clue. So while looking at the pictures, Mateo basically summarizes everything that happened that day. So Boney's death, Dale Hawkins' news coverage, stealing Miss Jameson's day planner, finding the kill list, learning about Charlie's involvement, talking to Autumn in the murder van, and fighting with Ivy. So I guess I could have just done that at the beginning because it's literally the summary. So there's still something tugging at his brain. So he thinks that he thinks like, what would Ivy do? And thinks back to when she tried Boney's first name in the burner phone to unlock it. Also not really sure why Mateo ended up with Boney's burner phone. But anyway, She tried Boney, like his first name, not Brian, which is his actual name. So Mateo tries that and gets into his phone, and he sees that there's text messages, but the last message is the code for Miss Jameson's studio, or Dominic's studio, or whatever. And Mateo calls the number and it goes to voicemail, but he almost drops the phone because he hears a familiar voice like on the voicemail that fills his ears. We don't know who it is. And he's looking at the pictures. So it's someone in one of the pictures. And for the first time all day, he knows what he has to do. Do we have any guesses? I did not. Like, I had some, but I was wrong. So we'll get there. YouTube, Carlton Speaks channel. The YouTube boys are back and they're at Stefan's party interviewing people because there's like this big house party because that's what you do in these books when a fellow student dies. So someone asks if Ivy is a suspect or just a person of interest, and the boys say both. And then Zach wishes Emily was there. He's one of the YouTube boys. And the other boy says she's not talking to them for the rest of their lives. Then some girl comes up and says this, and I quote, "My best friend's cousin's dad works for a guy who knows a guy who bought the building Boney died in, and she said that he said there might be drugs involved." So we've solved it. Thank you, random girl at random party. But they say like, this is pretty obvious, but like, supposedly Boney died of a drug overdose, whether someone gave that to him or it was self-inflicted. But anyway, the girl's like, no, that's not what I meant. It's a drug den, obviously. So then a blonde boy walks by that looks like Charlie Sinclair, and he comes up. It's obviously Stefan. They just say, oh, it's an older version of Charlie. Obviously, who would that be? His older brother. Durr. And he's like, why are you filming? And Zach tells him that they're just like reporting on Boney's death all day. And the camera goes black and you hear him like, get the F out of here. Like, don't do this at my house party. Chapter 25, Cal. So Ivy is in the classroom and she's still confronting Cal about the sugar babies. And Daniel's like, I'm leaving. I'm going to ride with my friend. Ivy, you can take the car back because you're probably going to need it because you rode Cal and now you're mad. So Daniel's got to go. He's got to go with his friend to Olive Garden because we cannot miss that. Death does not stop us from bottomless breadsticks and salad, okay? So now Cal basically explains to Ivy that he didn't want things to change in their, like, friendship. And when he found out that they liked each other, like Mateo and Ivy, because he found the note and everything, he just like took it because he didn't want things to change. But he's not in love with Ivy. He just wants that friendship, and he knew that they would couple off and he'd be left out. That's ongoing for Cal. He's always left out about everything. So Cal, Ivy says, that's the most selfish thing I've heard all day. And it's like, is it though, girl? Is it? So Cal definitely does not let that one slide. And he's like, the bowling alley, baby oil, like, remind you of anything selfish? She tries to say how awful Daniel was to her, but he's like, I know, you've always been awful to him. Like, blah, blah, blah. Your family dynamics suck. So then Cal's also like, Daniel is like being your pal and looking out for you. Like, that's kind of sus. And she's like, well, he must have actually like given them a fake number because the police haven't called me or anything. And then Cal's like, well, maybe he's the D that wrote the note, Daniel, to Miss Jameson because he does do lacrosse, which is by her classroom. Like, they could have met. Obviously, his coach is her fiance. And Ivy's like, no, that's crazy. And then Cal calls out Daniel for wearing $1,000 sneakers, which Ivy didn't realize the cost of the sneakers. I probably wouldn't either, if I'm being completely honest. And she still tries to make up for it and like defend Daniel. And Cal's like, well, maybe he's not D, but maybe he's the weasel, like telling everyone about the drugs and stuff because Daniel goes to that party and he's really popular and he runs in those circles. So Ivy's like super mad and she's like, I'm out of here. This is crazy. Like, you wronged me and my brother is not the problem. So Cal basically says that Ivy and Mateo deserve each other because they're both acting like children and throwing tantrums, etc., etc. So after Ivy leaves, Cal remembers the teacher's desk. The bottom drawer was locked, and one time Laura told him that she keeps her inhaler in there, so she keeps it locked because they can't have that going missing. I don't know how like important an inhaler is or if kids would try to steal that, but okay. But she did tell him that she hides a key somewhere underneath her desk. Why is she telling him all this? Like, this is weird. But he finds a key in a metal box, like magnetized to the top of the desk, and he opens the drawer. And inside the drawer, he finds dozens of plastic freezer bags filled with pill bottles. So Cal picks one up of these bags, stuffs it under his shirt, and then heads out the door. We get back to that. Chapter 26, Ivy. So Ivy's sitting in her car, And she gets another notification that her parents' flight's been delayed again. Won't be there till 6. Big who cares? Whatever. We don't even get to the actual flight, okay, landing. We skip ahead after a bunch of stuff happens. But anyway, she's trying to figure out if she should call them and leave them a message, like if they should find out all this from her, or if she should just let them see like all the news articles and things I'm sure people have been sending them. So she considers leaving also, additionally, Mateo a long rambling voicemail, but she doesn't do that. And then she's not going to call Cal because she's mad at him. And she doesn't know what to think about Daniel, like with the shoes and stuff. So then Ivy takes a minute to think about Boney Mahoney and how tragic it all is and how her actions have led to this. When Ivy then gets a text from her brother saying, hey, we broke down. Can you come pick us up? And he sends her his location and it's somewhere on the edge of Carlton. So she's like, there's no way her brother was involved with the drugs with Miss Jameson. Like she's trying to tell herself in her brain. And she does pause because of the expensive shoes. Like that's weird, but it's not enough to like set off alarm bells. So she decides that she's going to do the right thing from here on out. She's going to be a good person, start doing the right thing. So she's going to go pick him and his friend up because he needs help. So she write back like in the text, on my way. Bad idea. Obviously, we've all read these books. Bad idea. Chapter 27, Mateo. So Mateo pulls up to the house party that the YouTube kids were interviewing people at, and he talks to Charlie for a minute, who's sobered up at this point and is only drinking water. And Charlie's really going through it, thinking it could have been any of them, not just Boney who died. And Charlie also knows that Cal wants to go to the police, and he might be right about that. Duh. And he also says that his brother Stefan just said, like, you need to lay low. It'll work itself out. Like, don't mess with this, blah, blah, blah. It's probably why he shut down the cameras. And then Mateo's walking towards Stefan to go outside. And Charlie asks, like, as he's walking out, like, is there something between you and Ivy? And Mateo's like, we're going to talk about this later, Charlie. Okay, bye. So there's a bunch of girls around Stefan, and Mateo's making his way over to him to talk to him. And Stefan's like, what up? And Mateo's like, have you seen ... But then he says, never mind. Mateo spots someone from across the yard going pee. So he walks up to this mystery person, and it's far enough from the party, and there's loud enough music, and they're all drunk and blah, blah, blah. No one is paying attention to this. So this mystery person says, hey, like, look who it is. What are you doing here? And Mateo says, hey, Gabe, or should I say Weasel? So he recognized Gabe's voicemail on Boney Mahoney's phone when he called, and then Mateo takes a swing at Gabe. So, don't know why I inserted my own sound effect. Chapter 28, Cal. So Cal explains that he's only been to Laura's house once before, and it was last week when he gave her a ride home from school when her car was in the shop. Which, why didn't her fiance just drive her home? Like, they both work at the school. Now, I'm assuming he probably had lacrosse practice, but, like, can she not just grade papers or something? Like, what are we doing here? So anyway, what are we doing here? Okay, I was going to move on, but it's like the idea of your teacher asking you for a ride home, whether there's this flirting and stuff, is insane. Like, I grew up in a super small town. My parents were literally friends with my teachers. That would never happen. That's crazy. So anyway, she flirtatiously asks Cal inside, oh, do you want to check out my art supplies? Blah, blah, blah. But then they really actually did just check out her art supplies. And then she left for a date with Coach Kendall, which, like, are you telling me that Coach Kendall came and picked her up from the house, saw Cal's car, and was like, how'd you get home? Oh, a student, and you're just hanging out here? Like, how did she get to the date? I need to calm down. But, you know, like, adult-children relationships really piss me off. So anyway, Cal knocks on the door. No one answers. He remembers her saying her back door is broken, something with the latch, so he goes into the house through that way, and he scares the heebie-jeebies out of her. She says, I thought you were, and then she kind of stops herself, and she says, oh my gosh, okay. So I don't know what that was referring to. That he was homesick, maybe, or that he was at the place. I don't know why she stops herself in saying that. But anyway, Laura has a suitcase next to her, and Cal asks her about it, and she's like, I'm leaving town. And he says, because of this, and shows her the bag he found in her drawer, like that he put out in her shirt of the drugs. And she laughs, and she's like, of course it was in my drawer, like, I'm being framed. So Cal says, a fuzzy just hit me in the face. Cal's like, I found your kill list with Boney's name on it, Mateo's, and Charlie's. And she's like, what are you talking about? And then Cal explains how they got the list and how Ivy, like, got it out of her bag. Miss Jameson calls Ivy a sneaky little B word and says she deserves every bit of what she's getting, and that she sent the YouTube Carlton Speaks videos to the media. What? Why, girl? Why? She is not a girl's girl. No. So then I have a little note, ding ding. Oh my gosh, trash can reporter's name is Dale Hawkins. The D signature D. She's probably having an affair with this reporter. We will get back to that. So that's just like my prediction in this moment. So Cal asks what the teacher has against Ivy, and she says nothing. She's just trying to take attention away from herself. She just needs like a distraction. She says she needs to get a few things together before she leaves so she can make a fresh start. And Cal is like, so you killed Boney or had him killed? And she laughs and she's like, I thought you knew me better than that. Like, is that what you really think? And she's like being super condescending and crazy. And she also says, oh, like, those drugs aren't mine. He wanted you to buy into this. That's exactly what he wanted. And Cal's like, who? Dominic Payne? And she's like, are you an idiot? No, he's not involved in any of this. She also says that since Cal's been playing detective, he should have had a better guess because the answer's right in front of his stupid face. We will get there. But you know what? I can't even blame Cal because I literally didn't guess this. Even up at this point, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Chapter 29, Ivy. So Ivy gets this gravel road where there's only one house. I think the lights of the house are on. But anyway, there's a car with its headlights on, parallel parked on the side of the road. So I'm assuming... Well, she assumes, I guess, that it's Daniel's friend's car. So Ivy texts Daniel and she says, I'm here, I think. What are you doing here? And Daniel texts back. He's like, Trevor needed to drop some things off with a friend. They're not home. Now the car won't start. We think it's the battery. You should get the jumper cables. And he's like, so park closer first and I'll pop the hood. So now Ivy's digging around her trunk to find the jumper cables, and she kind of annoyed at her brother. She's like, don't worry, I'll get it. Don't try to help me. I'm just a girl, small brain, weak woman arms or whatever. And she finds the jumper cables and she's walking over to the car, and someone gets out of the driver's side and she's like, why the heck is Trevor getting out? But it's not Daniel and it's not his friend Trevor that he was with. Ivy recognizes who it is, but we don't find out who it is yet. And she says, what are you? And then she's shoved to the ground before she can say, like, what are you doing here? And at first she's like mad. She's like, why would you do that? And then she realized, like, oh, I should be afraid. And the person grabs her and drags her to her feet and says, sorry about this, Ivy. I really am, but I don't have much of a choice. Chapter 30, Mateo. So Mateo's fighting Gabe still, and Gabe tries to fight back, but Mateo's like dominating him and just like beating the crud out of him. And Gabe's like, well, how'd you figure out I was a weasel? And besides the voicemail, he thought about what Charlie had said about how someone probably got on his bad side and switched Autumn's name with Mateo's. Well, there's only one person that like hates him enough to make that switch of names. So like that makes sense for Gabe to try to protect her, but also take down someone that's like a problem to him. So Gabe tells him that he had to name someone because there were 3 people involved, and whoever this like drug lord is knows that there's 3 people and they wanted the third. So Mateo tells him someone went after her anyways, asking about her work schedule. And Gabe's like, no, that was me. I called her trying to find her to try to like keep her safe and get her out of town. And like basically the same thing that Mateo was trying to do after what happened to Boney Mahoney. So Mateo says that he's like, you sent Boney to that building. Did you kill him too? And obviously Gabe's just some sort of middleman that sets things up for this mystery person that we find out about later. And Gabe won't tell him who like the main drug lord is because that person will kill him, obviously. But Mateo's like, I'm going to kill you, so you might as well freaking tell me. And Gabe's like, no, you're bluffing. You won't do that. So Mateo literally drags him into the lake and starts waterboarding him. And he's like, I read somewhere how long people can hold breath, but when they panic, it's less. So he's like counting how long so he doesn't kill him, but to scare him and hold him under the water until he gets his information. And that goes on for quite a bit. And then Gabe like comes up out of the water and he says, Coach Kendall, I gave the information to Coach Kendall. Are we saying dad joke lacrosse coach? Laura's fiance is our big old drug lord? Yes, we are. And if you predicted that, you are a liar. Chapter 31, Cal. So Laura is still talking to Cal, and she's basically like, you have no idea. He really had all of you fooled. He put up a good front. Like, you guys are all stupid, but also he's very slick. So Laura's still trying to leave, and Cal keeps physically blocking her from the door. He's not like grabbing her, but he's like blocking her way. And she's very cold and annoyed throughout this whole part. Definitely read the book. Very, very well written. Like, this is a really good book. Like, if you're going to read a book, read this one. So anyway, she's annoyed and she says, it's Tom. And Cal's like, who's Tom? Because he doesn't call all his teachers by his first name, their first name, only the ones he has crushes on. And she's like, Coach Kendall, my fiance, you dumb. Okay. So then Cal's startled by all this and starts asking like how, since when, and then Laura explains that Tom told her about 6 months ago that he was this drug lord or whatever, and he's been doing it for a few years. Don't really know how long they've been together, but that seems like an odd thing just to bring up, and then you're just like, cool. Because I know if my boyfriend was like, hey, P.S., sweetheart, I'm doing something highly illegal, I'd be like, okay, well, I gotta go. But anyway, don't date a drug lord. Should that be like a Jolly Reader rule? No dating drug lords or your teachers? Like, what are we doing here? But anyway, she explains that he was a small-time dealer using stolen prescription pads, and then there was a higher demand, so he like made this whole network of suppliers and dealers, blah, blah, blah. And Cal's like, why are you going along with this then? And it's a very obvious that she would gain from her fiance doing these things, but now he's framing her. And Cal asks like, well, why is he framing you then? And she's like, well, my indiscretions must have caught up with me. Ha! It's like, if you're going to date a drug lord, don't cheat on him. Like, why are we doing this? So anyways, she says that she's been involved off and on with someone else, and it's possible that Tom saw some text in between them that he shouldn't have. She's obviously referring to this mystery D person. So anyway, I still think it's a trash can reporter. But Cal asks if she's running away with this mystery D person, and she's like, God, no, he was just a distraction. Like, it ain't that serious. So then Laura says that things started to feel strange a few days ago when Tom was aggressively asking her if she was going to be at the studio that morning at 10 a.m. as usual, which he was like really insistent on the time. And he wanted her to be there, but obviously she didn't realize in the moment like why. She just thought it was weird. And then he was trying to spy on her, maybe catch her cheating. So she didn't show up to the studio at all. That she really did go to the pottery class. So she really didn't know that Boney died when she met with Cal at the cafe. At first, she was confused on why Boney was even there and if he was just collateral damage because Tom was maybe trying to kill her. But then she talked to Dominic, who heard that the police found drugs all over the studio, drug den, like that girl that was interviewed at the party said. And of course, she didn't leave those there, so it had to have been Tom like storing drugs or whatever. So if she would have shown up, the anonymous tip would have made sense, the blonde-haired woman, and they would have found her most likely crouching over the student, and her fingerprints would have been on the murder weapon, the syringe, because Tom had asked her earlier or last week to help her sort syringes? Why? Why are we doing that? Even Cal's like, that's freaking weird. Like, what the heck are we doing? So anyway, now there's even more drugs stashed in her classroom, and the quote-unquote kill list in her planner. And so Tom must have killed Boney, or more than likely had someone that works for him kill Boney while he was working at school. Airtight alibi, keep his hands clean. So she doesn't know what Tom's motive for that would be, but Cal explains that Boney stole a bunch of drugs from the shed. I don't think she really knows about, she knows about the stolen drugs. She didn't know that Boney was involved. And then obviously Tom found out through the weasel. So anyways, she said Tom freaked out when the oxy disappeared and when the declaration on drugs 3 weeks later at Cal's dad's college was going on. And then obviously this is a word thing for Ivy's mom, blah, blah, blah. So Lara says that Tom had a guy that would keep an eye on this kind of activity, basically confirming the weasel's existence, and then killing Boney Mahoney and framing Lara for both the murder and the drug operations takes care of both of Tom's problems. So then Ivy was just like wrong place, wrong time, and then just happened to be the right hair color. So Cal's like, well, why don't you just go to the police? Like, this would solve a lot. And she's like, I'm not going to do that. I have an alibi. She was at that pottery class. And she says, and like, obviously there was other people there, blah, 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 whatever. I don't like her, so we're not going to give her the benefit of the doubt. But anyway, she says Tom always had a plan B, and she doesn't want to be around for when he activates plan B. And she tells Cal tells her that Tom will still find her. Like, that's the kind of dude he is. You don't just like get away from people like that. And she says that, well, like him being in his industry, he knows people that can help her disappear. So she got a fake ID so she can leave the country, I'm assuming. And then Cal finally lets her walk through the door because he doesn't really know what else to say at this point. She gets outside and he's waiting to hear her like little roll bag go down the stairs, and he doesn't hear that. Instead, he hears muffled whimpering sounds of a voice he recognizes. It's obviously Ivy. Cal looks. Laura's standing perfectly still. Coach Kendall has his arm around Ivy's neck and hand over her mouth, and Laura says, well, this must be plan B. Chapter 32, Cal. Okay, this is wild. And this chapter is so long. I had to condense it for real. Okay, so Coach Kendall has everyone in the garage now at gunpoint. Laura's like in her own little corner, and then Ivy and Cal are sitting next to each other on the floor, and they're like holding hands because they're stressed out, right? So Ivy asked, what did he do with her brother? Because obviously he used her phone, obviously Coach Kendall used Daniel's phone to get Ivy to come to that location. And Coach Kendall's like, I didn't do anything to your brother. He's living his best life at Olive Garden. All I did was take his phone because he's a stupid boy. And then Cal's like, so Daniel's the weasel. And but then Cal like quickly shuts up because Coach Kendall's like, what are you doing here even? And Cal's like, oh, I need to disappear. Like, I should not be here. Uh-oh. Coach Kendall can tell that Cal has something under his shirt, and he's like, throw it to me. So it's the baggie of drugs or whatever. And he asks Laura, he's like, what are you up to? And she says, I have the same question for you with the gun and hostages and all this. Like, she is calm, cool, collect, and she's being sassy, and it's crazy. So Ivy interrupts, and she's like, how could you do this to Boney? He was your student, like, blah, blah, blah. And Coach Kendall's like, correct. He was my student. But also, he was a thief, and we got mad problems. So his guys, or whatever, his unknown, like, henchmen, told Boney that if he returned everything that was taken, they'd let him into like the big business. But Boney showed up empty-handed because he thought it would give him leverage because he's a stupid kid. He's literally 16. And Coach Kendall, I don't know, he's probably older than that, says that he would have killed him either way. So it didn't matter if he came with the drugs or not. But now he's mad because his drugs aren't there. Like, he still has to find his drugs. But he says, I would have killed him either way because we needed a body for the police to find. And his plan was for Lara to get found with Boney Mahoney's dead body, to frame her, get her out of the picture, and he would get his investment back, aka the bajillion bottles of pills they have. So Laura asks what he would do with the investment. Also, okay, I'm kind of confused because he set all this up and the art studio or whatever the building was a drug den. But he called the police purposefully. So wouldn't the police collect all these drugs? So it's like you're losing more drugs because you just asked the police to compensate all your drugs. I don't really get that part because all you want is your drugs back. So why waste more drugs trying to frame someone? But anyway, Laura asked what he would do with the investment, aka the drugs. Why did she ask that? He's going to sell them. Anyway. Oh, but she's basically like, because if she's supposed to go down as Carlton's drug lord, because like, wouldn't that make business more difficult for him? Like, police are gonna be thinking about this. If he starts selling drugs to the kids again and stuff, like, it's gonna be obvious that she's not guilty, etc., etc. And he's like, that's only temporary. Like, when everything dies down, they'll move into something else. I can be patient. And he also thought about having her killed and framing Boney instead, but he wanted her to suffer a lifetime in jail, I'm assuming because she cheated on him, and we're just not having that. But anyway, he explains how things didn't go as planned because Laura didn't show up to the art studio, but Ivy did. So maybe he can frame Laura for Ivy's death and Ivy for Boney Mahoney's. And then Laura's like, well, Cal's here. And it's like, girl, shut your mouth. Like, we don't need to talk about that. And Coach Kendall's like, well, he wasn't supposed to be here, you skank. And Cal tries to say that his parents like know where he's at. And Laura, she's like, no, they don't. Your parents would never know that, especially because you're dealt with this whole professor. Sorry, I hiccuped. This whole professor thing, like, cheating with a student, blah, blah, blah. So Laura, who's been calm, cool, collect this whole time, starts flirting with Coach Kendall, which is disgusting, but also very smart move, and is asking what his plan B is. So basically, he wants Ivy to take the rap. I just explained this. The rap for killing Brian, Laura to take the rap for killing Ivy, and the cow was just part of the drug empire, which shocked and horrified Coach Kendall more than anyone, which they don't say it now, but I think I'm assuming that his idea would just to overdose Cal like he did Boney Mahoney. But anyway, Laura, in a flirting, loving way, she's like, honey, that is a terrible plan. I love you. Let me help you. So she's like, we got two options. Sweetie angel bunny, sweetie pie, we could just run off with our fake IDs to the beach. And he's like, excuse me, you have a fake ID? Why do you have that? How long have you been planning on running away from me? And she's like, oh, calm down. I just knew in your line of business I needed to have a backup, and I just love you so much, and we just need to run off to the beach. And he's like, what's option number 2B? Because I'm not here for that. So Laura's like, option number 2. Frame someone else like these two, referring to Cal and Ivy. And then she's like, everyone's already accusing Ivy, so like, let's just go with that. And then Cal could have been helping her sell drugs by having some of the stolen prescription pads. We'll just plant those. And then she says if they move a few things around, they can make it look like they both overdosed and call it a day. But I have like a quick question, because no one's going to have a freaking question about these kids overdosing in her and his house. Everyone's just going to be like, you just had these students and they just decided to come to your house and OD. They don't really talk about that. But anyway, she also says no one but these two, being Cal and Ivy, know that she used the studio that Boney Mahoney died in. So besides Dominic, but he's not going to rat her out, obviously. So Ivy knows that other people obviously know about the studio, but she's not about to be like, yeah, Mateo and Charlie know, like, go kill them too. So anyway, Coach Kendall smiles like he likes option number 2, and they're like starting to prepare like for this idea or whatever. And Ivy and Cal, like, they're holding hands, and Ivy's like tugging on Cal's hand, trying to get his attention, and like kind of looking over like, hey, look over there, look over there. So Cal sees a crowbar lying on the ground, super convenient and super near to him. So Coach Kendall and Laura start planning on how to pull this off, and he mentions having a syringe full of fentanyl in his bag. Why is it already full, you guys? Like, I'm not a drug lord, but I feel like I would fill that at the time. But he's like, girl, I'm not giving you a syringe. I don't trust you. So Laura, you can restrain them. Go get the duct tape out of my bag. So while they're talking about all this, Cal lunges for the crowbar and hits Coach Kendall over the head with it. And quickly, Cal is flat on his back, and Coach Kendall is beating the crud out of him, okay? And Cal tries to reach for Coach Kendall's duffel bag to get the syringe, to get Coach Kendall with it. And this is all happening while Coach Kendall's, like, choking him. And he yanks Cal's hand out of the bag and hits him again. And Ivy's screaming in the background. She's fighting with Laura because when he got hit with the crowbar, the gun flew across the room. So Ivy and Laura are both trying to get the gun. Then Cal hears the word surrounded. Get down on the floor, hands over your head. Not sure why I said surrounded so like that. I was going to say you're surrounded, whatever. So Cal's nearly unconscious, but him and Ivy are safe, and obviously the police have shown up. So then I think Cal does pass out for a short amount of time. Then Cal comes to, and Ivy says, someone sent the police here. When he asks who, she says she doesn't know. There's an ambulance on the way. And then Ivy confirms that Daniel and Trevor really did go to Olive Garden and probably got that buy one, take one meal, and doesn't know anything about this. And Coach Kendall just texted through his phone like he said he did. And then Cal thinks maybe Laura called the police, but Ivy's like, she didn't help us, obviously. She was helping him try to murder us. So then Cal's looking around trying to find his parents, and he doesn't see them, but he does see someone leaning against a car a few hundred miles away, and he swears it's Mateo. So before he can say anything, both his parents come running up to him. Chapter 33, Ivy. Okay, so these next like handful of chapters are just like tying everything up tying up all the loose ends in a pretty little bow, and then we get like a huge oh my god at the very end. So these next couple chapters, just gonna kind of speed through them. It's a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings, a lot of whatever, a lot of read the book. So it's been 5 days since Ivy was in the garage, and her parents are obviously upset with her about like not going to the police and skipping school. And then she also had admitted the whole bowling alley thing with the baby oil. But her dad goes between like, oh yeah, I'm disappointed, and then he's screaming at the reporters because they're always at their door, and then to like crying and hugging her and telling her how much he loves her and blah, blah, blah. So then, and the mom seems pretty chill about it too. They really just don't talk about her. So then Coach Kendall, he's in jail, obviously, because he sucks. But Lara has a lawyer. She lawyered up real quick. And then she's like, I was too afraid of Coach Kendall to come forward, and the fake ID was just a last-ditch effort for me to get away from him. And Cal, he misinterpreted our whole relationship, silly boy. So whatever, she sucks. We hate her collectively, okay? And Ivy tells us Cal spent 2 days in the hospital for a concussion. And she also tells us that Lara never reveals who the mystery D that she was having the affair with is, so we still don't know that. The Carlton Citizen of the Year award has been postponed indefinitely. Her dad has been talking to Mateo's mom and his insurance company and the lawyers for his business about the Spare Me situation, seeing if he can get it back for her and help them out because obviously it wasn't her fault, etc., etc. Autumn, Mateo's cousin, has a lawyer as well. And they're pretty confident she'll get off with just like community service. And then at some point, Charlie got sent to private school by his parents. He may or may not have had community service as well. And then loser Gabe is also in very big trouble. I think he got arrested. So, or he might, I don't know why I didn't write down specifically. I think he's like pending arrest. Well, like he might be arrested, but he's pending like trial or whatever for his. But then there might be a plea deal. Also, do we even care about loser Gabe? Like, do we? Because the main thing we need to know is Autumn broke up with him, obviously. So Mateo said that he was at the police station and it was his idea, or not his, it was the police's idea to raid Mrs. Jameson's place because they're like, this might be a drop-off point because obviously, I would assume Coach Kendall lived there because they were engaged. But anyway. But then when the police got there and they saw Ivy's car, saw Coach Kendall's car, and the garage lights on, they knew there was trouble. So then they're like, it's police. But then him and Ivy haven't really talked since the whole thing. She did try to call him. He was polite as possible, but he wanted off the phone ASAP. So Dale, the trash can reporter, is still super heavily reporting on everything. And so are the YouTube kids. They're now like kind of YouTube famous. And then also Ivy and Daniel are becoming super awkward friends again. They play this little like online archery game, blah blah blah. And so she asked Daniel about the shoes. She's like, Cal said they're like $1,000, like what's up with that? And he says like, truthfully, I got them off of eBay. And she's like, ew, you're wearing someone else's shoes, gross. And he's like, it's cheaper than buying them for $1,000 or whatever. So the chapter ends with Ivy's dad crying because he's proud of them and Daniel calling Ivy extraordinary, which that was like a whole theme. I don't know how much I mentioned it in the podcast, but when Daniel became extraordinary, she started having problems. So like for Daniel to recognize that she's still extraordinary brings it full circle, blah, blah, blah. They're siblings. Yay. Okay. Everyone shut up. Oh no, we're not there yet. Okay, no one shut up. You guys can just listen like normal. Chapter 34, Mateo. Mateo talks about how his mom's super mad, obviously. Well, especially with Ivy selling drugs and stuff. And Ivy has, Autumn has a court-ordered volunteer work thing she has to do, but Mateo's mom's like, well, you're doing it too because you kept this a secret and you caused these problems as well. So Mateo and Autumn got down to only one job apiece because the mom's been negotiating the business stuff with Ivy's dad. And the mom comes in, she's like, I need to talk to you guys. And she basically says that she hasn't been a great example for them because she always tries to do everything herself and doesn't ask for help. And honestly, she was kind of glad that Spare Me was closing, like not the circumstances with the lawsuit, but she was kind of done with it. She was tired of running the business all by herself. And this shocks both the kids. And then Ivy's dad offered to tear down the Carlton Entertainment Complex. That's what replaced the Spare Me bowling alley and rebuild Spare Me the exact way it used to be. But Mateo's mom's like, no, instead, I want to join Shepherd Properties and become the managing director of the entertainment division of this Carlton Entertainment Complex, the CEC. So she gets good benefits. Her medications are super affordable, good all around. So she's like, I got to go take a nap. So she leaves or whatever. And Mateo and Autumn are talking, and Autumn basically says, like, you need to talk to Ivy. And he's like, it's not even that I'm still mad at her. It's just like, I'm embarrassed by all the mean things I said to her in the car. Like, how do you even move past that? And Autumn basically says, like, that's Ivy's decision if she wants to forgive you, not like you need to apologize either way. And then however she reacts is her business, and you just have to go with that. So long story short, Mateo shows up to Ivy's house with a box of sugar babies, and all is well between the couple. I told you they get back together. We all good fam. Chapter 35, Cal. So when Cal was looking at messages between him and Miss Jameson, she's like super smart and she's not saying anything too much. He just seems like a lovesick teenager, and she looks like a thoughtful teacher that maybe took it a little too far by talking outside of school or exchanging numbers, but nothing that would incriminate her. And she's just out and about living her life. She was on like a temporary she was temporarily suspended from teaching, but she ended up quitting before they could do anything else about it. But she hasn't lost her teaching license, which makes everyone furious, especially Ivy and Cal's dad, who's a professor. Cal and Ivy are back to being besties like they used to be, but he recognizes that the three of them, including Mateo, are better than just him and Ivy. And he's also trying to branch out because he doesn't want to be the third wheel to them. And he's becoming pretty good friends with one of the YouTube kids, which is actually like a genuine friendship developing. And there's like some more details about it, but it's basically just Cal coming out of his shell, becoming his own person, finding his identity finally. It's a read the book kind of moment. He just develops his own, like I would say he's developed the most out of the three. Okay, YouTube IZ channels. This is the YouTube kids, but they have like a new channel now since it's not the Carlton Speaks like newsletter or whatever. There's not a ton of super valuable information. It's just kind of a wrap up of how their success has gone since this whole event. And they still have Emily there in the YouTube videos correcting them with everything they say. And then she suggests they talk about something else. You don't always have to focus on this stupid drug lord thing. And they're like, but the trial's coming up. Why would we change what we're doing now? Chapter 36, Ivy, I am screaming. Okay, this is the very last chapter. Buckle up, shut up, pull over, stop what you're doing, sit down. I don't care. This is important. Ivy and Mateo are hanging out at his house, and she's like, I want to scorch the earth when it comes to Miss Jameson. We could follow her around. We could catch her doing something bad. We can get her teaching license taken away. We can get her arrested. Like, I hate her. What are we doing about this? And Mateo's like, no, we need to we've done enough investigating. We made this messy. We don't need to do anything more. I get it, but also chill. So then, and not this abruptly, but they start making out on his bed, and Mateo's mom's like, hey, I'm gonna come up the stairs in about 10 seconds, so like get your hands to yourself. And she gets up there and she's like, your dad's here, Mateo, and he wants to take you to lunch. And Mateo's like, I don't want to go. This was stupid. And his mom's like, too bad, but you can take Ivy if you want. I don't really care, but your dad asked for this, so you need to go. And Mateo's dad's being super duper awkward and extra awkward when he realizes like Ivy's going. And Ma's just like, well, next time give them a heads up, Darren, you freaking idiot. So the car ride over, Ivy and Mateo talk about how they're happy for Cal making new friends and all that. And they're kind of just wrapping everything up. And they pull up to this kind of like fancy pants restaurant. And Mateo's like, why are we here? This isn't like our normal, like casual pizza joint when you take me places. And Darren's like, well, this is sort of a special occasion. I've met someone. Well, saying I just met them is kind of misleading, but I've been interested in her for a while. And this is one of the reasons I moved back to Carlton, hoping that it would work out with her. And I am so lucky that it did. And Mateo's like, basically that he called it, that his dad moved back for something else and it wasn't to help him or his family. So then Darren says that it's been kind of complicated, but this person is very special to me. Okay, there she is. It's bleeping McBleep Miss Jameson! Darren D. Oh my God. We just need a moment of silence, I think, really, honestly. But then Mateo like freaks out, obviously, and his dad, Darren, has the audacity to tell him to keep an open mind. Then Miss Jameson says, Mateo, please come sit. I can't tell you how excited I am to get to know you better. Like, I didn't just lock your friends in a garage. And then she says to Ivy, she goes, nice to see you again. And Ivy's like, she literally, last time I saw her, she was wrestling me for a gun and planning how to murder me. So then Miss Jameson says so sweetly, oh, Darren, you should have prepared them better. Darren. So then this man continues to say to Mateo, he says, Mateo, I know this is going to take some time getting used to. You kids have been through a rough time, but so has Laura, and you all made it to the other side, so it seems like the right time to let you know, ... Then we see the stupid ring on her stupid left finger. He proposed to her. What? Is she even legally divorced? Okay, because I don't know like what it's like where you guys are at, but in the state of Nebraska, first of all, it took me 3.5 years to get divorced. Second of all, you have to wait a year before you can get remarried. Not saying they can't get engaged, but like this is like 2 weeks later. Okay, this is like maybe less. It's definitely less than a month. I didn't write down how much later. It's literally less than a month though. Are you kidding me? She probably hasn't even filed yet. So anyway, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. So then, Ivy reminds us, like, I even need to be reminded that Laura said during the whole garage scene that she doesn't care about D, aka Darren, and she literally said to Cal that the other man wasn't anything serious, just a distraction. Like, but what a freaking way to be seen as not guilty. You're literally dating one of the kids involved in this huge drug bust thing. And clearly Darren, the adult in the room with very heavy quotes on that, believes her. Stupid men with their stupid hormones. So anyway, Ivy, thank God, takes Mateo's hand and says, we're leaving. We aren't staying here for this. Like, this is ridiculous. So they walk out of the restaurant. He's like, where are we going? She goes, it doesn't matter. We're going to go scorch the earth. The end. I loved it. Okay, you guys, I loved it. 10 out of 10. This was a good one. This one was really good. It was kind of like, okay, since we're at the end, I'm just going to say this. It was kind of like for me, okay, so I don't have like a lot. I don't have any experience with like drugs and stuff or like drug dealing. And I don't read a lot of books covering like where the whole plot is about it. So this was like kind of different for me. Like usually it's more like straightforward, just like murder or whatever. So like at first I was kind of like, am I going to be into this? Blah, blah, blah. No, this one was good. And then to have like everything kind of wrapped up, but then to just like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Here's this awful, awful ending, but like in the best kind of way was awesome. So let's get to lingering questions. I'm sure they're the exact same as mine. I'll try not to rant too much, but how the heck did Laura get off the hook? I feel like there's probably drugs in her house because he was a drug lord and there was the drugs in her desk. And I know she was framed or whatever, but it's very much like a he said, she said. Also, why would they not believe the only victims / witnesses, aka Ivy and Cal, were there? So why would we not believe the two children that said, hey, they were going to kill us, including her? Like, they have no reason to lie about Laura being part of the plan to kill them. And also, she fought Ivy for the gun. So why would she do that if she was trying to help them? Like, anyway, I digress because the government is stupid. And of course, she would talk herself out of everything because she's pretty and whatever. But, so my other lingering question, which isn't even one, but like, how could Mateo's dad be so effing stupid? Okay, like, how did he fall? Okay, I get how he fell in love with her, I guess, whatever, and all that. But after the garage thing, after all this news, after talking to Mateo, after him finding out that they're dating, like Mateo and Ivy, wouldn't you think you talk to Mateo? Like, forget your feelings, bro. Or like Ivy about what happened. Be like, hey, what really happened? You're my kid. I believe you because I have no reason not to believe you. Like, why don't you just be a parent and literally help? I yelped. Like, I was mad. Like, nothing's stopping me from protecting my kids, bro. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're at the end. We have a new book. Who's excited? This Is Why We Lie is what it's called. By Gabriella Lepore. I don't know if I'm saying that right. We're going to read the inside cover and the back cover because why not? In typical dramatic fashion. Bear with me, I have not read ahead. When Jenna Dallas and Adam Cole find Colleen Odell's body floating off the shore of their exclusive coastal town, the community of Gardeners, Bay is shaken, but even more shocking is the fact that her drowning was no accident, with Colleen's death headlining every news station and Jenna's best friend becoming a key suspect. Jenna starts to look for answers on her own. As she uncovers scandals inside Preston Prep School, leading back to Rookwood Reform School, she knows she needs Adam on her side. As a student at Rookwood, Adam is used to getting judgmental looks, but now his friends are being investigated by the police, and the Rockwood boys' friendship have been forged in fire, so Adam will do whatever he can to keep them safe, even if it means trusting Jenna to help him find the true culprit. As lies unravel, the truth starts to blur. Only one thing is certain: someone must take the fall. Okay, back cover. I don't have a family anymore. All the family I need is here at Rookwood. It's just that their blood isn't the same as mine. Turns out blood isn't thicker than water after all. All of us here, we're in this together. We'll all go down in flames together too. A burning inferno screaming in the night about things that came before. Also, I like that they said blood isn't thicker than water when the girl literally drowned. That's in bad taste. No, I'm just playing. I wonder whose perspective this is from. Oh, it looks like... Sorry, I literally haven't looked into this. I picked one off my bookshelf. It looks like it just goes between Adam and Jenna's perspectives. So let me know in the comments if you read this book, what you think, if you're excited, etc., etc. And then I will see you next time for that. So in closing, thank you for listening. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at the Jolly Reader Podcast for all the things. Subscribe so you get notifications when new episodes are posted. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave me a review because it helps you find other crewmates. It helps find... I said that so wrong. It helps other crewmates find this podcast. Also, shout out to the girlie that left me a comment on Facebook, a review. You're my first review. Much love to you. Share with all your friends. Donate. There's a donate link in the notes. That just helps me buy books and keep the podcast going. And if you like secondhand embarrassment, stay tuned for the outtakes. And I will see you next time for This Is Why We Lie by Gabriella Lepore. And until we sail again, this has been the Jolly Reader. Bon voyage! Then we gotta pause so I can go, hey, you made it to the outtakes. Let's do it. For all the things earlier, for being, what does this say? Kyle asks, not Kyle. See, my notes are doing it again. This is I gotta turn on my volume. Hold on. Trash truck is at my house, so we might have to pause because my dogs really don't like when the trash is taken out. But anyway, Cal. Oh, nope, that's not it. I don't understand this note I wrote. Sorry. And she's like, I thought... Oh. And she also, I don't know. I don't think we're there yet. But sorry, I keep checking my watch. I'm literally just making sure my mom doesn't, or my kid's school or anything like that. So anyway. Let me just get a drink real quick because I'm going to have to cut all this anyway. Also, I legit feel like my arms look fat in this, but they're not. Why do I feel that way? Okay. I have to sneeze. Whoa. So Coach Kendall can tell that Kyle has something under... Or Kyle. Nope. Oop, waffle. I got a waffle butt. Oh, he meowed. But anyway, okay.